Hey everybody, welcome to Masters of Trade episode 3. If you are building something big, e-commerce or not, you are 100% in the right place. My name is Eitan Buckman. I run marketing here at Freightos, but I'm really in it just for these interviews where I get to speak to some awesome people that have built fantastic businesses. So just a quick reminder, if you were one of the unfortunate people to miss out on episode 1 or 2, the way these things go down is we kick off with a quick interview with an entrepreneur. We jump in after that to 4 actionable tips from that entrepreneur who will talk about how you can build your business and make it better. And then we'll let him talk a little bit about his company and end with some questions that we got from viewers like you. If you didn't send in a question before, make sure that you get in next time. We have some great episodes coming up after this. But I'm particularly excited about this episode. And I'll tell you why. If you were with us in the episode last week when we interviewed Richard Gilbert from Payoneer, one of the things he talked about is how the biggest advantage that smaller companies have is that they can use their agility, they can use their speed to change faster than the larger guys. If you were looking for fidget spinners last summer, one of the things you may have seen is that small grocery stores had them on the shelf before Toys R Us did, right? Because they are smaller and they are nimbler. And that is what e-commerce is all about. And rapid pricing, dynamic pricing is the epitome of rapid decision-making. And Feedvisor is the epitome of online algorithmic pricing. So I am delighted to welcome Victor Rosenman, the CEO and founder of Feedvisor, to the show. Victor, thank you so much for coming on. We're just trying to get Victor on here. Hey,
yes.
Vic.
Hi. Thank you for the opportunity.
It's truly the pleasure is all ours. Just to introduce you, Victor Rosenman is the CEO and founder of Feedvisor. Moved to Israel after, correct me if I'm wrong, of course, moved to Israel after a computer science degree in St. Petersburg, studied at Hebrew University and Kellogg, and then spent about 8 or 10 years at Sun Microsystems, which is definitely not a startup. And at some point afterwards, moved over to found his own startup. Didn't really take off, shifted into a consulting business, and then in 2011, you started Feedvisor. How did I do, Victor?
You know how the life of entrepreneurs are. So actually, comment about Sun Microsystems. I think Sun Microsystems was one of the most exciting companies at the time. A lot of the what used to be called the .com era was around Sun Microsystems, so it was a super interesting company to work at, and basically today I would say a lot of the Sun Microsystems folks are today in Google, and probably some of them are in Facebook today. So super influential company. After, as you said, like after finishing with Sun, after doing my executive MBA degree, I started a new company. The timing was horrible. It was 2007 when we started. 2008 wasn't the most exciting year, to say the least.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Okay,
so
wow.
so then because I brought so much of the experience from the world with technology, and I understood a lot about the business side, and e-commerce was one of the most exciting and interesting areas I always looked at. So I started a consulting business, which was targeted to basically marry the two. So I could look into more of the technology savviness that can be brought to the e-commerce entrepreneurs and help them to execute better, especially in the environments where it becomes highly complex and highly electronic, like Amazon, and at the time was eBay and some other marketplaces. So that's pretty much where I started, and then I started to be exposed to multiple ideas and difficulties that various e-commerce businesses face, and this is what led to basically Feedvisor.
Yeah, and I think that's such an interesting journey of working at a big company and then working at a smaller one in the consulting business before Feedvisor, and now, of course, in just 6 or 7 years, you guys are managing $2 billion, and I think we forget what the word billion means. When companies are acquired for 16 billion, it kind of becomes funny money, but $2 billion is a lot of money worth of goods that you're managing. So
Yeah, so I think Aitan, the best way to think about the volume we manage would be as a percentage of the global Amazon business. So I would say we probably manage around 3% of the Amazon global marketplace.
wow, that's phenomenal. And yeah, and Amazon is not a small company. So wow,
By
that's
any means,
really
yeah.
yeah, that must feel really good when you wake up in the morning and you think about the fact that you're managing so much sales for Amazon. That must be a pretty good feeling.
It is, but it also there's a lot of responsibility on us, and we
Yes.
definitely feel this responsibility, and we implement. This is, I would say, the back side of the business that people usually don't see, but we have a lot of attention that actually comes from this responsibility that we cannot screw our customers. We cannot
Right.
have any sort of hiccups. I mean, it
Mhm.
needs to be acting flawlessly, and it means that you need to have the infrastructure in place, and you need to have a technology, you need to have tests, you need to have the quality, and it all needs to happen. So when the customer joins, like it's all working right.
It just
But there's
works
so
out of the
much
box.
complexity behind.
Yeah, and I think that's something that's really easy to forget when you're just starting a company. It's like really fun and really sexy, and you're just like it's working and it's really great, and then you forget about those SLAs and just like the back end that just needs to keep on ticking. So yeah, I think that's a great point. One thing before we actually get into that, I have to ask you. I saw that your first degree here in Israel was in philosophy. How does that square with the computer science and the MBA? What does one do with a philosophy degree for that? How does that work out?
Right, right. So basically, what we are seeing today in the entrepreneurship world is the most innovation today comes from not from a single domain, not from going deeper in a single domain, but usually in the cross-domain experiences.
Mhm.
So you suddenly see that technology being applied to areas where no one would apply technology before, of creating of this sharing economy. Technology is being applied to taxi, to hotels, to areas you would think, wow, like to food, to clothes. Like when you think about almost every area in our day-to-day experience has to deal with technology. So what philosophy helps is to create more of the high-level view and better understanding of not only of the narrow problem you can solve in a
Mhm.
particular narrow domain. So you can say, okay, so you can, um, let's say, invent an algorithm that will do better compression or something of a particular case, and it's super
Mhm.
nice. And then you can have this infrastructural breakthrough. But if you really want to build a huge business, then understanding the world, understanding the overall complexity, and then see where technology can be applied. This is where the kind of the massive breakthrough happens.
Yeah, you should go on a speaking tour to promote philosophy programs because so, suddenly I want to go back to school. So, I mean, another thing that I picked up, and I mentioned this to you before when we spoke before this webinar. I Googled machine learning because I know that Feedvisor is all about machine learning and optimizing pricing and decision making in general with machine learning. And I saw that Feedvisor was founded in 2011. Machine learning as a popular search term only started taking off in the middle of 2013. So you were way ahead of the curve. I guess like I'm just so interested in what kind of decision making, what are you looking at when you manage to identify one specific core group? And I think this works. You know, the guys that are watching this are selling on Amazon. How do you identify the right product? What is that decision process that you go through to figure out this is the right technology, this is the right direction that I want to move in, and how did you do it before it was mainstream?
Right. So let's say the machine learning as a science, it's not new. It's not 2013 phenomena. It started in 1960s or 70s,
Mhm.
where uh, the computer power then was not probably good enough at the time. But then the area of research around machine learning, and even like new words, new buzzwords like deep learning, whatever, it's all been there for a while.
Mhm.
Uh, I think it's intersection of few events that occurred. First, there was a significant breakthrough in the computing CPU power, so you
Mhm.
can process much more data faster. There was significant increase in the storage capacities, so now you can store the data faster. Now as a result, and then you can store significantly larger amount of data. Uh, in addition to that, a lot of the infrastructure was developed, like larger non-SQL databases and things. So now we can really store and use much larger amount of data than ever before.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, we need to, the world moves faster, the CPU runs faster, so you need to make the decisions faster. So obviously, machine learning, the kind of the resurrection, I would say, of machine learning to the very center, to the very epicenter even of the today's technology, is because you have this data, because you need to make the decisions, and there's no other way. If you use like human heuristical systems, it will take you forever. And the more data you have, the longer it's going to take you. So, so when I started Feedvisor, it was so clear that there is a gap. And the gap is that there is data that grows exponentially in the e-commerce of the orders data, the inventory data, the demand data. Whatever you look, there's a huge amount of data. And at the same time, very little ability to process this data fast. And then make the decisions. So as a result, the decisions are very suboptimal, and people rely on the gut feel. And then the gut feel sometimes is right, but very often is wrong. So and then when I was a consultant, I was working with people, and I was surprised by how much of the day-to-day of multi-million-dollar decisions being made completely on the gut feel. Oh, I feel this product is good. How do you know? I just have a feeling. And then what happens to 50% success, right? Because 50% success is like you throw a coin. 50% you're right. So this is not the best way to manage the business. And that was the core idea that brought Feedvisor in, is that we can help you manage the business better. We started with pricing, but then we went to some other areas as well. But at the end, our vision and our objective is to really see how we can use this data to make every decision in business better.
And I think that, I guess, so really that ability to identify that machine learning, right, I mean, you're saying it's not new, but to identify that that was the right solution, that was driven by market opportunity where suddenly we had the capability to do it, and the demand for moving away from that gut feeling and actually using data to make to drive the right decisions.
Absolutely.
Would you say that when you look at sellers, when you're onboarding sellers, when you speak to sellers before they're using Feedvisor, what is the biggest mistake that you feel like they make? Like, what are people missing? Do you think it's that what you just mentioned about like relying on their gut too much? That's what 100%.
It is? Yes. Relying on intuition. Because think about most of the sellers that operate today on the marketplaces. Where these guys came from? They came from the Fifth Avenue. I don't know. You had so many stores, the real stores, out there, and you had so many businesses that operated in the real world, and then they moved all digital, and then in digital they had their own sites, and suddenly there's a marketplace, and it's so easy to get in front of the audience and get listed on the super popular products. So what Amazon has created, the change that Amazon has created in the world, it's lowered the bar of entry for a lot of the entrepreneurs. For new entrepreneurs selling certain product, to get in front of millions of audiences, which is the biggest problem today for the website, is so easy. You don't need to buy this huge amount of traffic. You don't need to put a CapEx expense. You don't need to spend on advertising. You just get there in front of the audience. So it really lowered the barrier that's required for the e-commerce businesses to get in front of the customer. So that was the huge, it actually moved, if you think about this, it moved all the fixed CapEx expense into the variable. You just pay the variable fee to Amazon, whatever it's 7, 15%, whatever it per category, and then you're in front of the customer. Now you need to go and sell. Now you need to be best versus the others who also get in the front of the customer. So the rules of the game, they changed entirely in such a short period of time. The Amazon marketplace initially went in kind of mid 2000s, but it was mainly books and media. And then suddenly, after 2010 and 11, it became the marketplace for the actual goods. So once that happened, the rule of the game changed entirely, because you don't even need to spend that much money on the capex. You don't need this investment. You can get in front of the customer straight away. So once that happened, then you're in the middle of the war with all the vendors, that now it's so easy. There's no barriers. They get in front of the customer as well. So what do you do?
And you're just totally lost. It reminds me, my little brother plays computer games all the time, and I'm terrible at them. And it's so easy to log in to one of these, like online Final Fantasy games. And every time I try to do it, within a second, somebody in Singapore blows my head off, right? Because I don't know what I'm doing, right? So the barrier to entry to get onto that game is so easy, but I'm just there and I have no clue what I'm doing. And I think that's such an important point, that you just get on board and you actually need to empower yourself with the tools. And speaking of empowering yourself with the tools, let me, people aren't here to listen to me. Let me pass it over to you, and you'll walk us through. You sent over like 4 really, really super actionable ways that people could take advantage of their data to do a better job at selling. Why don't you just walk people through it right now? I'll pass it over to you here.
Sure. So as we spoke, the number one challenge basically that sellers face is the fact that Amazon is a very smart marketplace. So it's not like eBay. It's not like what I would say. It's not like Google. It's not like many other areas where you can get in front of the customers, because it's an algorithmic marketplace. It actually learns not only on how consumers behave, but it also learns how sellers behave. What type of inventory do you put in FBA? What type of products do you sell? What's going on with these products? So you are being watched all the time. So that's number one. And Amazon is a competitor as well. So this is something that the sellers always need to keep in mind. This is the challenge. The second thing is the marketplace, because the lower barrier of entry is hyper competitive. It's like very complex, a lot of data, but it also is hyper competitive. There's always something behind you willing to take your kind of primary spot. And then getting this primary spot, what's used to be called buy boxes, the buy button in Amazon, is like, if you think about the internet, that being brought to every country, there is some point where internet brought to the country in very high volume, and then being distributed among the houses and the businesses or whatever. So, and we get a certain internet speed, but let's assume that we can connect to the backbone. Like the speed is infinite. That's the feeling that Amazon seller has when they win the buy box on the high volume, high velocity product. Like the volume is infinite. As much inventory as you can sell, you sell it. So that's amazing. But at the same time, there are so many people that want to take this spot. So how you win?
Blow your head off.
Yes. So how you win this spot? And then Amazon is watching you. What are you doing? How do you win this spot? What's your cost structure? How you whatever you can tell Amazon, they learn. So you want to tell the minimum. You don't want. When Amazon introduced what's called the Amazon repricer, and then some naive sellers jumped on this, it's just, yes, let's tell Amazon more. And then guess what? All of them, they figured out that within the next few months, Amazon started to compete on their best-selling products. And they said, why? Because sometimes you need to think a little bit further away. What's the consequences of your decision? So
that's a tricky relationship. It's a very
tricky relationship. Nothing is free in this world, right? So Amazon is learning. So if you're getting something free, you always need to think why. So so that's one thing. And then the question is, what do you really need to do to have a competitive advantage in such environment, both versus Amazon as a competitor, and also versus others sellers exactly like you who actually want to take this winning spot and then start getting their business running.
Okay, let's jump in. All right, cool. Next slide. Here we go.
So what we do at Feedvisor is as we spoke before, we combine the concept of machine learning with data, and we said, okay, so we can really use the two to help you drive your business critical decisions. And we'll talk about this in the coming slides. It's very much not abstract. It's very concrete decisions. These decisions of how do I price now on this particular product? How many inventory pieces I need to buy today, assuming there will be certain amount of demand and certain amount of sales? How I'm making sure I'm not overstocking but not understocking my particular product? How I choose the right new products to sell? So this is very concrete decisions, and what unifies all of them, they need to be made now. They cannot be made like tomorrow, in a week. Oh, I have time, I'll go to vacation and I'm coming back and then I'll decide. It's not going to work this way. It needs to be done now. And the most successful sellers, they face the higher velocity. So if your business goes well, your velocity will be above the roof, but then the complexity as well. You need to act faster because every small thing impacts the velocity. And if you don't have the velocity, you're probably not a successful seller. So you need to have the velocity.
What are the core factors that go into that? Like what are beyond pricing, which is obviously just one of the components, what kind of complexities are you talking about here?
So there is a lot of information that's coming in. The information is coming in from the market, from pricing, about the demand, about the competition, but and then it's all is data. And the data is being processed by algorithms, and then these algorithms can basically identify trends, that things moving in certain direction. And these trends is something that you use to decisions in order to grow your business. But all this needs to be done very fast and very precisely. So these two things, speed and precision, is what sellers need to be successful. Because if you're acting very precisely but slow, you're missing the opportunity. And if you're acting very fast, but your precision suffers, you actually will be really suboptimal.
Yeah, looking at this, I would think that as a seller, the scariest part is really that shift between trends and decisions, right? Because it's really fun to identify a trend, but then suddenly to let a computer decide what I'm selling my goods at, that's a scary decision to make suddenly, right?
Yeah, I'm not necessarily sure I agree. Definitely for the larger sellers, you need to let go, right? So like in every business, like if you're managing a business of 3 people, you want to be involved like everything what they're doing. You manage 300 people, like you cannot watch every person. So you need to let go. You need to rely on something else, and you need to rely on people as much as you need to rely on technology. And technology is some of the forces that are driving your business. So we're seeing large sellers like doing over $100 million a year with us. They don't watch every dollar. They rely on us. They manage our performance on the high level. They see what we do, but they're really letting it go.
Do you feel like they need to make the decisions that are not made on platform, right? They're sourcing decisions. Do you feel like that variable of speed is just as important with all of their decision making? Like every component right now, in order to be successful on Amazon, everything comes down to speed?
Yeah, because let's think about the sourcing decision. It's a great example. In sourcing decision, you need to decide which product to sell based on the history and based on the market situation. The market situation is of today, so you need to predict. But the very obvious kind of predictions, the things that kind of everyone sees, these are the opportunities that everyone already utilized. So so you need to find something unique, and you need to find it ahead of others. So yeah, so it's a great example is you have really good deal now. You just need to know, and then because you have such a good deal, you can outperform others. You just need to know that the demand will be there. So you may get a good deal, but the products wouldn't sell. Doesn't help. If you have a good deal, and then you have a product that will sell, but you miss the opportunity, it doesn't help either. So you need to have this situation where, yes, I have a great deal, but I also know there's an opportunity, and then you're combining both, and then you win.
Right. Okay, I get it. Cool. So let's keep on going because I want to make sure that we get all your slides here.
Excellent. So basically, we're talking about what are these decisions that can change your business. So first one is how you optimize the performance at the portfolio level. That's number one, because very often people don't understand how the portfolio behaves. We'll talk about this in a second. The second thing is about the pricing, making sure you price right. The next one is about demand planning and replenishment. How are you making sure you're not staying out of stock too often? How are you making sure you're not overstock? And the last one about finding products and managing your assortment. So let's move forward. So this is actually a screenshot from Feedvisor. I don't have many screenshots here, so not to make it into like Feedvisor presentation, but this is so powerful. When this is an example of a seller, they sell $1.3 million a month. Not the largest seller, definitely, not a small one. It's a nice sized business, but look at the number of SKUs. That's super interesting. So they have 5,000 SKUs. But what they see, not all of them sell. 3.6 thousand SKUs don't sell at all. Wow. And you have close to $1 million sitting there. Why are you having those? What's the problem with them? There's something you need to understand. The other thing is, so you have these 1,500 or so SKUs that are selling. Guess what? Only 20% of them are responsible 75% of your business revenue. Super interesting. I mean, why have another million sitting there and only 25% sell? If I have this 20% sell, then I want to do like 20-80% rule, what's called Pareto. So I really want to invest into this product because every product there is contributing hugely to my business. That's a super important decision. Where do I invest? Where I care about velocity? You said about thinking about your products and making decisions. Usually what we see is there's just a couple hundred products for every seller that are so critical for the performance of the business. So that's the opening. That's usually where you need to open, look at your business. This is view from sales. You need to look from the profitability perspective. You need to look from the margin perspective. You need to look from a velocity perspective. But you really need to understand your Pareto. Where is your 20%? Where you really need to focus, where you need to look when you're coming at the morning. Not at the entire business, not at the 5,000 products, it's impossible. What are my first top 100 products to watch every day? Let's move next.
And in that case, just a quick question because I can't go by without asking this. Is this the kind of thing where you just recommend just like getting rid of like the bottom 80% and just like totally focusing on the 20? No, it's just optimizing the 20.
Totally focusing on your top 100 products or something is what you need to do. But you don't have to get rid of. Maybe the other contribute. Maybe it's okay. It's a decision you need to analyze and understand, but you need to be laser focused on the top 100. Laser focused because everything, that's what moves the needle.
Focus on what matters.
Absolutely. And then, but you also need to understand that the focus changes from day to day. And then tomorrow you can see the change in distribution. This is where the trends come in. If you suddenly see a star product that it's doing like amazingly well, it's still not in the 20%. You want to watch it as well.
Right. And I know our viewers, they're looking at the title and they're like, I don't care, just how do I win the buy box? Because I look at this
how do you win the buy box?
Right? Exactly.
Yeah. How do you win the buy box? So you win the buy box basically. Well, you win the buy box with one simple thing, and then I'll talk about this a little bit more complexity there. But the one simple thing is you need to have the best offer. So looking at your reputation, your reviews, your ratings, your metrics on Amazon, compared to your price, combined together, you need to have a best offer. That's number one. Now, where the complexity is, you don't know all the metrics of your competitors. Sometimes you can know their ratings or reviews, but you don't know how exactly Amazon will rate them or rank them one versus other. You also don't know all of their metrics. So you're looking into some sort of an equation. So this is myself with whatever metrics I have and my price. This is the price of the competitors, and this is the buy box. And let's assume I move the price higher or lower. What will happen? And the question you want to ask is, how do I win the maximum amount of sales at the highest possible profit margin? So in the screen here, we have one graph that shows profit. and then the profit grows very fast as the price is low. So you increase the price, the profit grows fast, and the order is growing very fast. But at a certain point, the profit starts to accelerate, because if you have very high price but very few orders, you don't make a lot of overall profit. Same happens if you have very low price, like huge amount of orders, but you're not making any money. So there's a certain point which we call the optimal price that gives you the optimal profit. And it's a function of two things. It's a function of price and function of which point I will win the buy box. I don't have to win the 90% of the buy box, because that means I probably wouldn't make any profit. What's my right buy box percentage I need in every given point of time to win so I can maximize my profit? That's the question you need to ask.
So the real thing is, you don't actually want to win, and that's such an interesting concept. You don't want to win the buy box every time. You want to win it at the right times.
You want to win at the right time so you can maximize your profit. So let me give you two examples. So you're selling a watch, and let's say it's a $500 watch, and you have really, really good deal. You close the manufacturer, you get $300 in every watch you sell. You want to kill everyone. You want to sell as many as you can, right? So you don't care what others are selling. You're making $300 on the watch. You want to sell as many watches as you can. Now let's assume the other situation. You have only $30 that you're making out of this watch. In this case, you would be significantly less aggressive. You would say, oh, I want to squeeze every dollar. I don't mind losing the deal. I want to squeeze every dollar, because every $3 is the 10% difference. So you see the same profit, different cost structure, and entirely different decisions.
Right.
That's where we use Feedvisor. That's where our customers use Feedvisor, to understand in real time what are the right decisions for them, not for a given product. For the same product, two different people can have two different decisions based on their circumstances.
Fascinating. Yeah, I mean, so that degree of variance, yeah, that's really interesting. Cool. So, okay, great. Do you want me to go to the next slide? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So the very same concept applies to the inventory planning, and also for the introduction of new products. So the buy box price or top rank price is the first graph. It obviously goes down because there are more people that jumping on the bandwagon. So we start with a situation. There's a high price. There's a very low demand, but it's growing. And there's very low competition. You're killing the market. And then, and as we said, the barriers are low. People learn. People start jump on this product. We know that usually the life of the new products being introduced to Amazon, for example, is 1 to 2 years. Because after first year, it started to accelerate. After a second year, it's so competitive that you're hardly making any money. So then you need to understand where's your opportunity zone, where you need to keep replenishing the product. And this is the concept here. But also when you're selling certain product and certain velocity, how much really inventory you need to apply. And you need to look into a lot of data to know this. It's not something that is straight out there. You need to look at your orders velocity, inventory levels. You need to look into the competition data on various bids, how many competitors, how strong they are, what's their reputation, the sales rank, the market data. So all of this needs to be calculated, and then you need to make decision now, today. How many items do I buy? 30, 50, 60? That's where you need to act. This is where you need a platform to really crunch all this and make a decision for you, because you can't make this decision. You can make intuitive decisions, and it works in 50% of the time.
Right. This is where you want to avoid intuition. Yeah, that's interesting. Are there, I mean, for the entry-level shippers, for the guys that are for sellers, for the guys that are just getting started, is there any way to do this in a more accessible way, or do you really need to be a fairly large gun in order to do this effectively?
The answer is second. You need, in order to do it efficiently, you need to be able to have the right tools. If you're just starting, then flipping a coin may be a good strategy, because like, what do you get to lose? It's just having three orders or 5 orders, doesn't matter. But it's so you're just testing the product, you're just learning how to do it. As soon as you get the velocity game, you must have a technology behind you.
Okay, great. Let's go to the next slide here.
Next. And the very same concept applies to finding new products. So when, this is the question you asked me at the beginning. So when you're looking to find a new product, you're focusing on demand. You need to know how many sales can you expect. How do you know this? You can know this by looking at previous history of the same product, of the history of similar products, of the category. You can check the seasonality. There's a lot of concept in. And then what Feedvisor does is we actually analyze this multiple concept, we crunch the data, and then we come with a recommendation. And our goal is to be with a recommendation as close to the reality as possible. You know, every forecast is true to a certain extent, but the extent is differs very much. So for us to provide accurate forecasts, super important, and accurate forecast combined with your cost structure and then the predicted fees that you're going to pay enables you to actually make decisions now, because you need to make decisions now because you have a deal. Very rarely people will look into this and say, what products do I need to buy, but where do I find them? So when you have a deal, when you get an email that you can buy at this price, it's the good price. You need to know how much profit you're going to make out of this product. And this is decisions you need to make now. And then you need the technology behind you to help you crunch all of this, run forecasts, and tell you exactly what you're going to make on this product with certain degree of probability, of course.
Right. Amazing. Yeah, so do you want to just give us like the quick 2 minutes about Feedvisor itself and what do you guys do and what type of customers are you looking for? What kind of customers do you help and how exactly do you help them?
So what we do is, we spoke about this, all examples is based on what we do today. Feedvisor helps sellers to make smarter business decisions and make them better and faster. So we can help our customers to manage pricing. We help them to understand the velocities because pricing leads to velocity. And then from the velocity, we help to understand what really they need in terms of inventory levels, how many items they need to buy to replenish, which items they need to exit, how to find new items when you have this hot deal coming in and then you need to make decisions now. All of this is what Feedvisor does. So we kind of, in a sense, the automated, the computer brain behind the seller business. And this is why Feedvisor is so successful, because the marketplace only grows more and more complex. And therefore, you really need to have all this computing power, all this machine learning behind you, so your decisions can be less gut feel and much more accurate. So that's pretty much what Feedvisor does. In terms of our customers, we typically work with customers that can experience at least initial scale. So like if people doing like few orders a day, it's too early for them to use the technology, because they need to figure out their business, they need to figure out logistics, they need to understand how to get to the products that sell, how to get these products at the right price. There's a lot of the basics involved before the business starts to experience initial scale. And I would say initial scale is when people get to around $1 million a year. Or let's say 50, 60, 70,000 dollars a month. That's where you need to start around about automation. Start thinking about automation, and the automation needs to help you scale faster. And that's what Feedvisor does. We help our customers grow their business much faster, optimize profitability, make the decisions more precise. It's all about this.
Yeah, and you're clearly doing it right if you're powering 3% of Amazon sales.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, you know, we had all these questions from the audience beforehand. We're kind of short on time, so what we'll do is we'll just answer the first question, I think, right now, and then afterwards, maybe Victor, I'll email you the rest of the questions, and we can have you send the answers out. This, you know, I saw this question, and I was actually interested myself. How do you maintain your competitive edge? You said that, you know, there's like a 2-year life cycle for a product. How do you maintain a competitive edge as the market becomes saturated? And I think that holds true both to e-commerce products as well as pricing platforms, right? I mean, there were fewer pricing platforms when you first got started. I know there's more out there right now. What is it that you're on the lookout in order to do to maintain that competitive edge?
So the concept is similar. The implementation is different. For seller, it depends which type of products the seller would sell. If a seller sells a product, there's a lot of competition on that particular product, then you need to work on the scale. You need to see if you can get to higher volume, get a volume discount, create an economy of scale, and then no one else can get the product at the same type of pricing. So you're
Mm-hmm.
selling it really well, and then you're getting an economy of scale because you can get a volume discount. So that's one area. If
Mm-hmm.
you're introducing a new product, then it's all about brand and brand protection. So let's say you can do really good marketing, but at the end, other people figure out how to do marketing as well. They start to sell competitive products. So you need to make sure then you turn your initial entry into the brand. And then
Mm-hmm.
when you turn it into brand, then people are looking for your product and not for the copycats.
Mm-hmm.
For a technology company, it's a similar but different. We need to have technology edge. So what we do is we start with certain algorithm as a small company. We developed it. We raised capital. Then now we can invest more. Now, because we can invest more, our algorithms will be better, and the data that we have is larger because we have a larger customer base. Then you create some sort of cycle that works for you, because then you grow, you're adding customers, you have more data, you have better
Mm-hmm.
algorithms, you have more money to that you can put into the science, and then everything reinforces. So the very same thing as for the seller. You sell more, you get a volume discounts. You started to sell first. You created a brand. Now you protected yourself. The same works for us.
So yeah, so it creates a virtuous loop that just keeps on building yourself. Yeah, I think that's really great. We're going to skip the rest of the questions right now, and Victor, I'll email them to you afterwards so that we can get the responses and send them out to everybody else. Um,
Sure.
yeah, I want to thank you so much for joining us. I think one thing that I'm definitely taking away from this, there's I think there's a quote by General Patton who talks about how a good plan executed today is better than a perfect plan executed at some indefinite point in the future. And if there's one
Absolutely.
thing that I think Feedvisor is doing, it's making sure that in a very quick amount of time you can get the perfect plan to execute today, right? Which is just everything you really need to win. Victor, thank you so much for your time. Everybody else, thank you so much for tuning in. You can sign up for the next webinars at freightos.com/masters. Thank you very much again, Victor. We really appreciate it. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you. Cheers.